At Export TT, we understand the journey towards export readiness can be a path strewn with challenges requiring individual grit, creativity, and innovation. To this end, we have identified key Tobagonian entrepreneurs who have been able to successfully navigate such challenging economic terrain and are currently engaged in building strong, dynamic export enterprises. As part of this series, they will share their insights and experiences with other Tobagonian business owners and demonstrate the strength of their status as true entrepreneurs. This evening, we are pleased to have with us our featured speaker, Mr. Dwayne Dove. Dwayne Dove grew up in Scarborough, Tobago, and attended the hospitality sector. He again furthered his studies in food and beverage at the Swedish Restaurant Academy, Stockholm, Sweden. He is a trained sommelier, which is a wine specialist, and chocolate connoisseur with over 20 years experience in the European chocolate industry, wines, spirits, chocolate making, restaurant establishment consultancy work, food judging, culinary tourism, restaurant catering management, cocoa farming, cocoa and chocolate product development, and much more. In 2004, Dwayne made the bold move to return to Tobago and invest in his own cocoa estate. Established in 2006 in Roxborough, Tobago, Tobago Cocoa Estate West Indies Limited is more than just a working cocoa estate, as guided estate tours are also offered to the island's visitors. On January 12, 2020, Tobago Cocoa Estate launched its first product, Tobago Estate Chocolate, 70% single estate. A first for Tobago, produced entirely from Tobago cocoa. Since then, Dwayne has released several other products, winning the highest accolades at international chocolate competitions. In 2018, Tobago Cocoa Estate became the first ever cocoa estate in Trinidad and Tobago to receive 100% organic certification from both the EU and USDA. Since 2017, Dwayne has been involved in other cocoa pilot projects in the Tamina area of Trinidad, working with smaller farms. He also works together with THA's Tourism Authority at international trade fairs. This evening, Export TT is pleased to present Dwayne Dove. Welcome, Mr. Dove.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here, and I fully support anything that will elevate Tobago business, etc. I give 120% to the beautiful island of Tobago.
Thank you, Mr. Dove. You can go ahead and we will have questions and answers after Mr. Dove's presentation. And so the public, the audience, you're welcome to ask questions.
Right. Well, just briefly, I think Ms. Berkeley really said it all. Thank you for the presentation, the kind words. Actually, we released our very first chocolate product on the 10th of January 2010. So we started planting cocoa in 2005, and in 2010, we received our first harvest, and then we started making products. 2011. We started winning international awards, and then it just moved on. We have been doing guided estate tours of the cocoa estate since 2008 and continuing onwards. So it's a working cocoa estate, and at the same time, we agro-tourism project where we offer guided tours, and you can do a chocolate tasting at the estate, etc. Rum and chocolate using our local rums to combine with the chocolates, etc. And as Ms. Berkeley said, I have been since 2006, I think, working with the tourism department, THA tourism department, and their foreign representatives at different international trade shows, promoting Tobago as a tourist destination, as a culinary destination. And we have also been offering tours through a Scandinavian tour agency, organizing tours for Scandinavians to visit Tobago, visit the cocoa estate, visit our beautiful beaches, play golf, go to Sunday school, eat our local dishes, go to Miss Esme, Miss Jean, whoever is there, I mean, basically, yeah. So we have been doing a lot of promotion internationally for the Tobago brand, basically, throughout the years.
I see. Mr. Dove, what inspired you to come back to Tobago in 2005 and start planting cocoa? Was it that there was is it that because the industry was more or less dead at that point in time in Tobago?
Yeah.
What inspired you to do this?
Right. Well, basically, I mean, I grew up in Tobago, we had a cocoa estate in Frenchfield, right? And I mean, every weekend we would go and we would, pick cocoa and bananas, grapefruit, everything, and basically, I guess, growing up on the island, I go into Methodist school and then, Scarborough Sec and Comprehensive, having Mr. Warren and Mr. London as my, members, I mean, everybody, I guess it just felt it was the right thing to do. I studied culinary arts at the George Brown College in Toronto 3 years, and then I furthered my studies, as you said, Ms. Berkeley, to the Swedish Restaurant Academy, where I am a qualified sommelier and made vast visits throughout different vineyards in Europe, etc. So I guess my background within the food industry inspired me to return to Tobago and start my own project. And I mean, when I say start my own project, I mean the Roxborough Tobago Estate, we started from nothing. It was a bamboo. It was, they didn't have any cocoa trees there. It was all bamboo, plenty bamboo. So we really started everything from scratch back in those days, basically. So I think the inspiration came as me wanting to reinvest in Tobago as a Tobagonian, right? Living abroad for 30 years, you could hear me, I'm a born-bred Tobagonian, So yeah, so coming back and investing in the island was the right thing to do.
Okay, did you find it difficult to get funding to start up, or is it that your years out there abroad helped you to come up with the seed capital you needed to develop?
Well, I'll tell you something, yeah. During the years, from the beginning, the Agricultural Development Bank has been very supportive. Through very difficult times, they have always, supported me. And I think all the governments, all the changes in governments during the years have always been supportive, right? From the days of Agricultural Minister, Mr. Pigott, to Mr. Rambrat. I mean, everybody has been very supportive. No real financial support directly from the government, besides through loans through the ADB. However, I think that most of the investment has been my own investment, basically from my own property investment and other foreign capital that I have accumulated through the years working in the industry that I have reinvested in Tobago. So it's been hugely expensive, yes, and I'm still waiting to see the returns. But my return so far is all the international awards that we win. We continue to win every year and promoting the island, and we're hoping that things will get better in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Dove. The idea of making a Tobago chocolate, I would like to know, for the sake of the entrepreneurs out there who are still developing their product, what was the actual product development process like for you? Is it that you had to hire persons to help you with that, or having been a sommelier and doing that training in Canada and at the Swedish Academy, did that help you with the actual formulation of the product, or did you seek other expertise?
Right. Well, thank you for your question, Ms. Berkeley. Basically, I would say that after working for about 20 years, 23 years actually, within the food and beverage industry in Stockholm, well, in Europe actually, I saw already in 2005 2002, 2003, the possibility of me creating my own brand. All right. I had all these sensory attributes that I needed to define what a good chocolate would taste like. And I've been working with chocolates before 2003. I've been working with them like 8 to 10 years prior, combining with wines and local rums, aged rums, etc. And I've been meeting with all the top artisan European chocolatiers, building relationships, building bridges, etc. So I knew exactly, by the time I decided to return to Tobago and invest in my cocoa estate and develop a product, I already knew what I wanted to develop. So it was really the hardest part was already done. It was just to, to grow your own cocoa, all right, and create
Right.
a product, basically.
Excellent, excellent. And I'd like to know what encouragement you have for other entrepreneurs in Tobago who are currently formulating their products. Sometimes you can reach a point where you want to tear your hair out because the response from the market isn't what you expected. What was your market response like, and how would you advise persons to go about doing their beta testing for their products? Did you do like any surveys and were you aiming for only the international market, or did you have a response from the local market? Tell me how that was.
Right. So everybody has their own business plan when you enter a business venture. And I wanted to be close to my market. And for artisan craft chocolates, right, the tropics is not really your prime market, basically, because I don't make fake chocolate. I make real chocolate, right? And real chocolate, even that the raw material is grown in the tropics, the end product doesn't really survive the climate, the heat, and also we don't really have that a huge market for artisan craft dark chocolates, within the tropics locally. So, and I'm not doing this as a hobby, all right? It's been a huge investment. So I need to make sure that whatever I do, whatever I make, I sell. I have to sell because I have staff to pay. I have lots of costs involved, and this is a private venture. It's not government funded. So I have to make it my priority that whatever I do, I have to sell, basically. So what I have to do is to look for the market where I would sell my products and also stay close to the competition. You always want to stay close to the competition because you want to know what that guy is doing. So Europe is the prime market for artisan chocolates, all right? And to penetrate that market is a huge challenge because there's a lot of protectionism, of course, within the European, the EU market for their own artisan chocolate makers. So for me, I had to make sure that I had my market, my target market was there, and I knew what I needed to do. I think for upcoming entrepreneurs who want to get into the business of making craft chocolates artisan, you need to be sincere about what you're doing, and you need to also have a story, something that's solid. You need to have a passion for what you do. All right, you're never going to be rich off of what I'll never be a millionaire. All right, I do this because I have a passion for it. All right, and I can do this until I'm 100 years old. Right. So, but I mean, so we don't make bulk industrial supermarket brand chocolates. Right. None of my chocolates are found in supermarkets. These are artisan gourmet chocolates, organic. All right. No child slavery. Of course, we don't have child slavery in the Caribbean, of course, but no palm oil, no chemicals. It's no fake chocolates. It's real stuff. So you need to target that market, basically.
Right. And so it must have been a lot of work going through the minefield, I should call it, of the European. Okay, basically I was asking if it was a big challenge for you to go through the regulatory restrictions on the EU market.
Well, of course, if you want to sell your product within the European market, you have to abide by the rules and regulations. So we have abided by that, basically. You know, we, through our organic certification, and I just want to just reiterate that we are actually the first ever cocoa estate in the history of Trinidad and Tobago to receive organic certification. That is huge.
Congratulations.
And we did this with actually the support of TNT Export. So I'm happy to say that TNT Export was a part of that accomplishment. So thank you, TNT Export, for your assistance. So basically, yes, organic certification within the EU is serious stuff, right? It is not just not using chemicals, all right? So Roundup doesn't exist in my world, all right? It is really about accountability for your staff, fair pay, fair play. All of these aspects, you know, the human aspect is very important through organic certification. So I think for us, we follow the rules and the regulations, because if you do not do that, then you know you're not going to get anywhere. So you have to follow the rules that are whether it's in Trinidad and Tobago, the rules of Trinidad and Tobago, or whether it's the EU rules. You have to follow them.
Kathleen, if I may, I've seen an interesting question in the chat from Rajesh Ramrup.
Okay, yes, we can go ahead and
it's an interesting one, because I'd love to hear the answer to this one. Mr. Dove, how did you overcome any labor challenges in growing your cocoa beans to get labor on your estate?
Right. You have to pay people well. If you do not pay, you will not get any results. It's as simple as that, you know. You're paying a man $150, all right? As a Monday, he will look at you and he will just say, no. You have to pay him $450. You understand? You have to pay. You're not going to get people, you know, cocoa, coffee, sugarcane has a very dark side behind it, right? Slavery, colonial crops, you know, we were exploited by you know, the masters in those days, you know, and that's still, you know, we haven't gotten closure, a lot of us. So, which is why I will never sell one single cocoa bean to anybody, right? I will make sure I make a product that I will then sell. So basically, you have to pay people, you have to respect people, you have to be a good manager, right? All of these things, right, really is what gives you results. You can't go down hard and try to be this kind of a arrogant, kind of hard-handed kind of fella. You know, you have to deal with people respectfully, pay them, and if a man not doing his job, if he's not pulling his hand, then well, you have to find somebody else.
I think that's
it's
some
as
good
simple
advice.
as that.
Definitely, there's some good advice for anybody here in this discussion this evening, who is dealing with agriculture, because labor not tending towards agriculture right now is not the in thing, and you gave some good pointers there. I mean, one, pay people what they deserve, and secondly, you mentioned being a good manager and treat people well. So you haven't experienced any issue with like any sort of high turnover staff, nothing like that?
No, not whatsoever. Mind you, I must admit that I've had serious difficulties in finding people in Tobago to assist me. So I've had to actually bring in a lot of people from Trinidad, all right, to help me with my project. And when you bring in people from Trinidad, you have to, is housing, is food, is salary, is transport. You have to make people happy to be able to do the work, but they do the work because they feel that they are being well treated, right? We have a handful of people in Tobago, all right, that I can turn to, all right, but as you said, I mean, agriculture is not a priority, and people are quite comfortable in Tobago, right? So it's difficult to get people motivated to do certain tasks, basically.
Sure.
That must have been quite a challenge indeed. That must have been quite a challenge. Tell me something, Mr. Dove. How did you go about dealing with the accounting aspect of running such an enterprise? Why I'm asking this for the sake of those who have little or no accounting background, but they want to position their business towards export development. And number one, how do you determine? I don't want to ask it too technical. I don't want to be too technical, but what I want to ask basically is, knowing that there's a vast price range out there for artisan chocolate. And by the way, if you can just explain to our audience the difference between regular chocolate and artisan chocolate, I'd appreciate that. But in terms of cutting a price point that you can say, are my labor costs, my operational costs in general going to pan out if I charge this amount for my chocolate? How do it's like a deep blue sea you're facing out there, because you're looking at exporting this product. You're looking at a wide range of prices. You're looking at how do I get a profit, and how soon do I look out for that profit? For those, because we're speaking with people who, the majority of Tobagonians do not have a business that's ready for export. But in approaching it, how do you deal with that whole maze of costing and pricing?
Right. So one of our sources of revenue to help with our ongoing recurrent costs, etc., would be the agritourism aspect. So by having tours to the estate, etc., that will assist us in oiling the coil, that would assist us in keeping things rolling. So just imagine 2 years of Corona without one single cruise ship, one single arrival. It hurts deeply, in deep places, right? I mean, you have to start putting a lot of your own savings, sell things, whatever, just to keep things going. So basically, accounting is very important, which is why we have an accounting company, a registered accounting company in Trinidad, all right, that handles all the accounts. It's a cost, but it's a cost that you have to accept, all right, because you have to do this thing properly, all right. If you want to take a product to an international level, you cannot be writing down in a little textbook, that's cottage industry level, right? If you want to progress, proceed, and move forward, you need to take it to the next level. However, you would have to need startup capital, all right, and a clear path forward as to how are you going to sell what you're making, and how are you going to sell it? Who is going to buy it? You have to study this carefully before you jump into the whole thing, basically.
Thank you, Mr. Dove. Did you have an export plan? In other words, did you have not just your business plan, but your plan to export, or was that integral to your business plan, since your business was for export anyway?
Well, yes, 90% of all our products are sold internationally. So basically, whatever beans we receive from our estates have to go through the organic certification process before we could make products. And then, our products, we have distribution from our European warehouse. And from there, I mean, right now, to give you an example, the Tobago estate chocolate brand you can find in New Zealand, in Australia, and just recently, China, right? I mean, this is where we are. So my focus has always been, all right, getting out and reaching out to the international market, and the Tobago brand is being spread all over the world, right?
Congratulations.
So you don't hear about this locally, you don't read this locally, right? But I mean, because we have our products in Tobago, all right, for resale at the different outlets, all right, gourmet outlets, no supermarkets. All right, but basically we are a gourmet chocolate brand, and I mean, my prime priority is the international market.
Excellent, congratulations. I need to mention as well, while you were speaking about the organic certification and what criteria you had to satisfy for that, I was remembering that you also needed to have a certain type of soil, the condition of your soil, the condition of your plantation itself, in terms of whether there was any leaching of anything into the soil and stuff like that. So that, I know it's very stringent criteria you have to satisfy for that. Did you find were there any hiccups on that road? Was there any, well, we're not highly industrialized and not industrialized in Tobago in general. So I know there wouldn't have been effluence from any factories or industries nearby for your soil and stuff, but so it should have been a smooth flow, smooth sailing?
Well, Ms. Berkeley, very smooth. We have never used any chemicals, and that area up in Roxborough, which is by the Argyle waterfalls up in the hills there, that area has been abandoned from any cocoa cultivation for 60 years. So those soils were ready and waiting and ready to pump. So when I went in there with my hybrid TSH Trinitario variety supplied to me from the La Reunion estate in Trinidad with the assistance of the Ministry of Agriculture and, very important, the University of the West Indies Cocoa Research Center, wonderful people, Dr. Darren Sukker, who is a cocoa star, right, who has helped us tremendously during the years. Right, all of these, Trinidad and Tobago, we have so many good cocoa people. All right, it's just that unfortunately we are gas and oil. We are an energy country, and it's easy money, easy cash. So everybody's so comfortable, right? But we have good cocoa people. We have the knowledge in Trinidad and Tobago. So really and truly, it's been smooth sailing as far as expertise is concerned. As consultancy, as getting labor. I have never had those problems. My biggest problem in Tobago is the parrots. The parrots is the biggest problem. And today I will say I would not advise any new entrepreneur to enter into the cocoa business in Tobago until the parrot issue is addressed. And that has to be done from government level, whether it's local, whether it's the THA or central government, or the military. But basically, the parrots have been, uncontrolled policing of hunting activities in that area have basically taken away, killed all the hawks, the natural predators for the parrots. So the parrots are rampant and raging. So we lose significant amounts of our stock every year due to parrot damage. And also climate change, because we are now seeing the effects of climate change, right? So these are so labor, no problem, expertise, no problem, plant material, no problem, parrots, problem.
Yes, okay. I never thought a parrot would be considered a pest. Normally, we would have heard over the years here in Tobago, the cockroaches were a major problem in the countryside. But I didn't realize
it. Don't like cocoa. Cockroach don't like cocoa. They will eat potato and peppers and all that kind of stuff. But they're not interested in cocoa. The parrots are the cocoa pests.
Okay, I see. It's interesting it's interesting. Kristen, you'd like to say something? Kristen?
Yeah. There is a question, Mr. Dove, that we could probably discuss here with everyone. Before we started the session, we were talking about the impact of COVID, particularly with shipping. Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Dove, could you share with us some of the challenges you had with the current pandemic and ways you trying to overcome the situation right now?
Yes, thank you for that question, Christian. It's been extremely difficult with shipping. To get our beans out of the Caribbean has been a huge mountain. It's been probably one of the most difficult challenges through the whole of Corona. Trinidad and Tobago as a small state, it's been difficult to get containers. The price of containers has doubled. We were paying $5,000 US for a container at one time. The prices went up to $11,000 US for a container. I just had to say, no, I can't, that is impossible. We can't pay that kind of money, for a container. So that has been a problem. And then the whole chain, You know, I mean, getting a container is one thing, shipping is one thing, and then arriving at ports where the brokers are not in office, and everything is just harassed and affected by the whole Corona incident. But basically getting your raw material out of Trinidad and Tobago, container, that has been a huge problem for us.
You found any solution to it, or was it workaround? Right.
Well, I mean, I had some stock at our warehouse within Europe so we're hoping that after this cocoa harvest, if there's anything to really get from this harvest, but we're hoping that after this harvest here, that we're waiting to see what will happen like May, June, where the price situation would be, where, etc. And then I'll have to take a decision from there as to what will happen, because, I am in Christmas. I'm thinking products for Christmas right now, and I need to get the raw material in place. All right. We don't make chocolates during the summer time. It's too hot. All right. And the market, our main market is European market. The sales they go down to, like 60%, negative during the summer months. So the autumn, the winter, spring, and early summer, those are our key selling points. So right now I'm focusing on Christmas sales.
If I may, Kathleen, one more question for Mr. Dove. So the pandemic has affected you immensely,
Hugely.
as it has every one of us who has a business here right now. What was your greatest challenge before the pandemic and the parrots?
Before the pandemic, I think it was the fact that the tourism industry is so fragile. So, we had in Tobago, we had a very good period between, I think it was 2013, 14, 15, when we had a direct flight from Scandinavia, because our major market for tourists in Tobago, all right, are the Scandinavians, right? The Scandinavians, they spend their money. They go and they buy leather sandals, they go to all the local restaurants, they go to Sunday school, they buy rum, they buy lime balls, they buy, you name it, they spend their money, right? So this flight from Scandinavia was like, it was hallelujah for Tobago. And you talk to any taxi man, you talk to any tour guide, you talk to that period there in Tobago modern tourism history was the best when we had that direct flight from Scandinavia. So I appeal to the new Tobago House of Assembly, all right, to make whatever you have to do, bring that flight again to Tobago, because people will Scandinavians come to Tobago, are talking Danish, Swedish, and Norwegians, and they will spend their money, which will be good for all Tobagonians, right? So that is my solid advice, and I'm not taking it, I will send an invoice for that, basically.
Kat, I see some more questions in the chat. Should we maybe open it up to questions from the chat?
Yes, I just have one more piece of information. Sure. I'd like to ask Mr. Dove. Mr. Dove, I know we did not plan for this to be like an interview format this evening, but I think it's more interesting this way. I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about your business, right? About your business. In that, for the audience and the public, we're speaking chocolate making, but we need to let them know that it's not the finished product that is shipped out from Tobago. So I'd like you to just tell us about that part of your business.
Right. So we don't make any chocolates in Tobago. That was never part of my business plan. Some people might have that business plan to make chocolates there and then try to get into a foreign market. For me, the most important thing was to have full control of the raw material, right? I want to be able to know that my raw material, my cocoa, is organic. I have full control of that. And then I basically, because I've been working with the chocolate within the chocolate industry for 23 years, I know exactly what style of chocolate I need to make. So basically, I have a factory in France where my beans are sent to, and I am there participating in the whole process of bringing the beans to fruition. to a final chocolate product. And just to let you know, the most difficult part of this whole journey is not making the chocolate, it's getting the raw material of the fine. You cannot make great chocolate without great cocoa, right? End of story, right? So it takes me months and years to gather the cocoa, the raw material together. It takes me 3 days maximum to make the chocolate. You make the chocolate, you put some paper around it, you wrap it, and then you're good to go, right? Because really that is the easiest part of it all, right? So yes, my business model was to have the agrotourism, to have to get my cocoa on my own, not sell cocoa beans. I don't sell cocoa beans, right? But my market, all right. As I said before, I want to be as close to my market as possible, which is the European market. Being close to your competition has given me so much energy, because I know what I need to do, how I need to tweak my recipe to win all these wonderful awards. One of our products, our Laura Dark Milk, won World Gold in 2017. World Gold, that's like the Nobel Prize for chocolates. You understand?
Okay.
We won that, we got that. And we would not have gotten that if we made the chocolates in Tobago, right? But the wonderful cocoa that Tobago has allowed us to accomplish that. And that catapulted our brand out into the world, all right? So Tobago Estate Chocolate Laura is branded all over the world at this stage, and we continue making the product.
Okay, now you piqued my interest there when you said if it was made in Tobago, you wouldn't have won it. Tell me, what is the basis of that?
Well, there are certain challenges you have with making chocolates in the tropics, right? The artisan, the craft chocolate making art form, all right, is not something that we really possess, all right, at this time. And I'm not saying that we're never going to do that. I mean, I encourage every local artisan to do your best, give it your best shot, all right? But you have to remember that at the end of the day, all right, what is our best, biggest advantage is the raw material, all right? Making the chocolate, you have to create your own style, all right? And for me, I knew my style before I even went back to Tobago to start the estate. I knew what I wanted to create it. So I kind of sort of tailored my whole estate and growing practices, everything towards receiving a certain type of raw material to make a certain product, basically. I
see. That's very, very interesting. And I think that is a hint to entrepreneurs who will listen to this.
Right. And there are definitely some things to learn here. So you mentioned that your production is being done in a factory in France. Now, something that we have acknowledged is a challenge is having a production facility that is capable of producing the quality and the standard for the international market. But I mean, for food and beverage in general, is that me? For food and beverage in general, when you first started this production, actually churning and processing chocolatiering, was this done through a contract manufacturing kind of agreement with an existing factory? Right. So basically, the factory where I make my chocolates are basically a gentleman that I have worked with for several years prior to me actually creating my own brand. So during my years within the food industry, I guess I would have used their products for my different wine tastings, rum and chocolate tastings, etc., and for different recipes. So I think basically I could have chosen from 50 different persons because I make that decision. All right. But I think in particular, I like their house style. And it married very well with my products, in my combination. So I felt to myself, yeah, they were true to what I wanted to create, and they were organic, and they don't use any vanilla or anything like that in their recipes. So their focus was on really reflecting the raw material, Tobago cocoa,
right? And that is probably what really lured me into it. So I would work with them, basically. Of course, you know, you have to get the licenses, you have to get the different food permits to do different things, etc., etc. So all of those things I had to get before I could actually launch my product, my product is registered within the EU and Trinidad and Tobago, right? So there was a lot of, I mean, you know, I would say it took me maybe 4 years whilst the cocoa trees were growing, all right, to make the preparations necessary to be able to launch a product.
There is a good point there about how you carefully selected your partner.
Yeah.
Because I am of the opinion that to overcome production challenges that we have in Tobago and Trinidad, contract manufacturing is something that can be pursued, and to actually have it manufactured closer to your export market while you still own the intellectual property and
Yes.
you get revenue from it. So
Correct.
those are some great pointers here. And as Kathleen mentioned, I know we didn't expect this thing to be a Q&A interview type session, but I think we get some good insight from how you have done this thing and was basically had a born international product. So thank you very
exactly.
much.
I think it is important that, you know, you remember because I've been working with this professionally for like over 20 years, I knew exactly what I needed to do. You know, it was all there. All I needed to do was to grow the great cocoa that Tobago has, right? And do it organically, you know, natural fermentation, you know, good varieties, TSH varieties, good planning, you know, all of these things using the resources available from the Ministry of Agriculture and the Cocoa Research Center. So I'm using all the local resources available to me. I'm going to Mr. Pigot, I'm going to Mr. this and Mr. that, you know, to get assistance, etc., you know, and they are supportive, etc. However, government has never been financially supportive, besides Export TT that assisted us in the organic certification. That was probably the very only assistance we ever got during the years, you know, but hey, you know, I mean, that's the way it is, you know, and I can live with that, you know.
We could talk about different services that we offer at Export TT. Now, what I'll share with you all is more about funding and grants and such. But we also offer support with your business-to-business matchmaking. We can help you do research, and research is important because, I mean, you heard Mr. Dove say it was 4 years of research before he had the first chocolate made to get this thing happening. And we have access to various databases that would give you support for that. We have a department that works on getting that research for you, and then, you know, eventually your B2B matchmaking with your potential international buyers. I just want to reiterate something that Mr. Dove has been saying right through. It was a lot of his money. It was a lot of his spending. So I could talk to you about the financial support that we can offer, but bear in mind, I mean, for this thing to work, you'll have to put in some of that.
Yeah, and not to cut you off, even though we got financing from the ADB, which has been very patient through all the ups and downs, at the end of the day, we have to pay back the bank. Right. And, you know, I mean, you know, one of our main revenue, we have two revenue streams, right? We have sales of our finished chocolate products, and we have sales from our tourism product. You know, the tourism industry for the past 2 years has been non-existent, and the tourism industry in general is so very fragile. A war is happening right now in Ukraine, you know, I mean, everybody wants to stay home. All right. So what's going to happen for the next 2 years, you know? So all of these aspects, you know, these affect your business plan, you know, your business run-ins, you know, in the long term, you know.
Yes. I'd also like to say a few things concerning Mr. Dove. Mr. Dove, I hear you clearly in terms of the number one, having a dual means of income, which would be a good advice to the entrepreneurs on here and those who will view later, so that you don't put all your cocoa in one basket. And so you have, or whatever it is you're producing, everyone has something different that they would like to bring to the export table, so to speak, in Trinidad and Tobago, And so I think that's a wonderful idea, the way you have duetted your offering, one with a product, another with a tourism element. And secondly, the way you decided that, okay, if I can't make chocolate here in Tobago, let me create a raw material that in itself would bring in foreign exchange. And because the cocoa plantation, I know up to 1994, at least up to 1994, there was cocoa in Roxborough. I experienced it myself. However, as it was everything was crushed a few years later, right? And so you got onto that plantation, which was higher up the mountainside. I have not yet been to your plantation. So the ground was not planted at that point in time when you took over that cocoa estate. Now, you brought cocoa from Trinidad through the University of the West Indies and the Trinitario cocoa from the farms there. And you brought those seedlings to Tobago. This is telling me that you innovated, you got creative with how you're going to solve a problem. One of the reasons we have this series of webinars is to help the manufacturer identify ways in which they can be innovative, creative, go around the roadblocks, go over the mountain, dig a tunnel through it, and solve an issue. So you brought a plant that had a memory here in Tobago, and you reawakened the memory with plants from Trinidad. What would you like to say about that? What inspired you to do that is what a burning question that I have in my heart.
Well, when we started planting, first and foremost, right, when you're beginning to plant cocoa, you need to decide what varieties you're going to plant depending on the topography of your terrain. So we also, when we plant in our Trinitario hybrids, we have to mix the varieties because we can't just plant one variety in one area, because if a disease comes, then everything will be wiped out and we have to do some radical pruning. Basically, we have to cut down everything. So we mix, right? But there's no cocoa, seedling activity happening in Tobago through any government agencies, whether it's Louisville or wherever. So all in plant material has to come from the La Reunion estate in Trinidad. That is the first thing. So I bring these plants, thousands of plants over on trucks to the estate. When we plant with other companion crops. So in the early days, when the cocoa was coming up, we were planting cassava and we were providing cassava to Louisville to make cassava flour. We were selling bananas to local people in Tobago, who would sell in the markets. So all of these things were extra. We were growing pumpkin, we were doing pumpkin and ginger, right? All of these things as cash crops to carry the estate. And when we stopped with that, we went over to the tours, because then we had cocoa trees that was tall enough to show people, well, this is a cocoa tree, this is what it looks like, all right? And we charge them a fee, all right? Because we have staff and we have maintenance costs to follow. So we started doing that. And then 2008, 2009, there was a crash in the world that affected the tourism industry. So things went sour. But we made our first chocolate in 2010 and got our first international award in 2011. And then that picked things up. In 2013, then the parrots came, right? So it's been challenges, but I'm a problem-solving kind of a person. So I don't see problems, I see solutions, right? That's the way I operate. Problems will kill you, right? You need to find solution to your problems, right? So this is the way I operate. And I guess you just cannot give up. You have to keep at it, basically. You cannot, if you give up, then you fail. And I don't like to fail. Right? So I think basically that's what keeps me going, basically. And we're going to win some more awards this year because the products, I'm just going to show you some products. This is our Tobago Laura, which has won the Nobel Prize for Chocolates 2017. Then we have our dark 70%, which was the first ever chocolate bar we created. And then during Corona, we launched our Buku Reef, which is a sea salt chocolate. And I'm hoping that this year we can launch 2 more from Tobago Estate. From our Trinidad Estate, we have basically our Rose Hill, which is up in Tamina. This one got the highest accolades within the chocolate industry, Academy of Chocolates Gold, right? And then we launched another one at 60% from the same Rose Hill Estate up in Tamina, right? And then we launched another one, which was an organic Rose Hill Estate. So, you know, innovativeness, creativity, you know, and, you know, just kind of finding out what the market wants, what they're looking at, you know, and you can only do that if you're close to the market, basically.
Correct. One more question I have for you, Mr. Dove, before we go to Trisha Beckles has, I think it's Trisha Beckles. I saw Trisha B has a question, but I'd like to find out from you. Are your chocolates, I know you said in Trinidad and Tobago, it's not sold in supermarkets, they're sold at gourmet outlets.
Mm-hmm.
In the open market, in the export market, what do you have as your main market? Do you have, how is it sold? Do you have a distributor, or do you sell directly to the market?
Right. So basically,
should I say directly to a retailer?
Right, exactly. So we sell directly to retailers. And this is all a part of the plan, our plan to retain as much of the revenue to ourselves and the company, right? So I'm not so interested in sharing revenue with anybody else. So I will do all the work that I can and meet the direct sales, basically, is what we're doing, right? So we have the beans, we make the product, and we sell directly to the shops. End of story. We don't need a distributor. Okay,
so you have an end-to-end. I'm not going to say encryption. Right? You have an end-to-end supply. Now, many times persons, they get their cocoa beans, they make their chocolate, but they don't own a cocoa estate. I must say you have quite an advantage globally. There are many estate owners in Trinidad who have their cocoa estates and they sell for next to nothing to chocolatiers across the world. And the chocolatiers make the profit. But the cocoa estates, many of them have suffered. Their children have grown up wondering, why is my family continuing with this cocoa business since we are still poor? And you have managed to do this backward integration in terms of going and having your raw materials also owned by you. And I must congratulate you on that feat.
Right. Slavery was abolished many years ago, and I don't believe in modern slavery, right? So I think that the exploitation of people in third world, the exploitation of us and our raw materials has to stop sometime. So which is why I will never sell one single cocoa bean to any other chocolate maker. I will go to my chocolate maker, I will make my chocolate day, and I will pay the man what he wants to pay, and I will sell my chocolate myself. End of story.
Thank you, Mr. Dove. Thank you very much. Trisha B has asked about, I don't know how abreast you are, Mr. Dove, with what is going on in terms of the media in Trinidad and Tobago, but she is asking basically if you're aware of what has been. I would like to ask her if she can be a little more specific in terms of the state of the cocoa development company and the state of cocoa. Mr. Dove?
Yes, I am very, very abreast with that development. I have very close contact with the cocoa and the Cocoa Limited. So I know very much what is happening. I think that, you know, we had a cocoa and coffee board, and that went over to the new form. All right. And I mean, I guess I don't want to say anything that would put anybody in a spot, but you know, I guess probably there hasn't been enough support from central government for the board or or either that, or people have just continued with their same methods from the Cocoa and Coffee Board onto this new version of a cocoa. I think we need to have a strong cocoa representative, all right, for Trinidad and Tobago, which would be the CDC Limited, all right, you know, and it would be tragic for them to go under, for that to not be in existence anymore. So I think the government needs to pull their hand and make sure that and strengthen the present cocoa authority in moving forward, because you know we can't be doing all, you know, it's like, you know, you're saying one thing and then all of a sudden you're having webinars about cocoa, this and that, and then your own cocoa development company almost busts. You know, I mean, it is just something is very wrong somewhere.
Thank you, Mr. Dove. I'd also like to ask for entrepreneurs who are into agriculture-based products and who in Tobago, we have formed associations, we formed companies and state enterprises, not private enterprises. I'd like you to tell the audience, what is the benefit of having these associations? And not in terms of the ideal benefit, but what is the actual benefit? You know, we start things with an idea, but what is the actual benefit? How have you benefited from the Cocoa Board and the CDC?
All right, so my benefit from the government, different government, you know, authorities, etc., has really been, very honestly, has been on a technical basis, right? For me, it has never been financially, but it has been on a technical basis, right? Whether it was from the Ministry of Agriculture, the La Reunion Estate providing plant material, and the agronomists associated to my case that assisted me, or whether it's the Cocoa Research Center at UWI helping me with my post-harvest practices, fermentations, drying, etc., all the charts, you know, etc., moisture content in beans, etc. So for me, it's always been like, you know, technical support. All right, never financial support, but technical support, besides Export TT, helping me with my certification. But for the first year, they helped me for the first year. I have to pay every year to retain my certification, just so that you know, certification is not cheap, right? You have to renew your certification every year, and you have to pay for your renewal every year. So yes. But you know, I think, and I also want to add that I have been buying cocoa beans from other very small farmers in Tobago throughout the years. Farmers in Pembroke, farmers in Charlottesville, in Speyside. All right, I've been Golden Lane. I've been buying cocoa from small farmers, all right, at twice the kilo price that the Cocoa Board in those days was saying. So if they're giving you $20 a kilo, I was giving the man $40 a kilo. Because I think even at $40, I could still make my product and buy bread, right? And live a comfortable life. So I think that all these prices need to be reviewed. You know, there needs to be such a total committed shakeup of the cocoa sector. I repeat that, a committed, all right, approach, right? Not just talk and propaganda and politics, right? But it has to be serious. You have to be really committed to it.
Thank you, Mr. Dove. The reason I'm asking these questions is not only for cocoa. It's not these questions are not just about cocoa. These questions, I'm using cocoa as the stick to measure everything else right now, because you're into cocoa. We don't have any other type of enterprise like this that's selling on the export market. And so I have to use cocoa for the audience's sake. I have to use it as the example for what we can accomplish. Would you say that we should have an association, since there are small farmers around Tobago? They don't have full estates, but do you think that Tobago should have its own cocoa association, cocoa board?
I wouldn't say a cocoa board, but I think definitely like a co-op, a cooperative that could receive. So, for example, the THA could have like, I mean, I don't know what that central fermentary is like, but I think that we should have like a central fermentary where we follow proper standards all right, and sun-dry our cocoa beans. Sun-dried cocoa beans gives you the best chocolates, right? So don't do any kind of, kerosene drying or, sun-dried on a wooden floor, old cocoa house, teak, cedar wood floors gives you the best quality. So I think it would be beneficial, all right, for the farmers. But this would probably have to be done maybe from THA level, all right. Let farmers come there, buy their beans, and then, once you take it from there, then you could probably, all right, targets artisan chocolate makers, all right? And you can do this by probably going to international chocolate trade fairs, all right? Carrying samples and carrying your story, all right, etc. Making that connection is important, all right? But I don't want to put a negative light on things because, I mean, this is really the way forward. But for those farmers to even receive any cocoa crop in the areas in Tobago where cocoa is produced, you have to deal with the parrot problem. Because the parrot are raging over Tobago with the cocoa industry, right? So you need to attack that. You need to deal with that problem first. A serious commitment. Get the hawks out there. Get a hawk program out there. Get devices out there. I am going to be introducing a device to my farm with distress songs to keep the parrots away. You have to do these things. Otherwise you're just spinning top in mud. You could talk all you want, but you need to deal with the parrot problem.
So what I'm getting from you is that, and Brian, I'm not sure if he has left as yet, but Brian, I don't have his full name. He's saying hello, his old schoolmate on your his old schoolmate on your sterling accomplishments and achievements that keep putting Tobago on the map. And he has another meeting, so he couldn't stay. So thank you, Brian. And so what I'm hearing you say, Mr. Dove, as we wrap up, is that this is not my cocoa estate, my business. This is, although it is your private enterprise, your endeavors, no one can replace the hard work you have done on your estate. No one held your hand, so to speak. This was your innovation. However, there are elements, as with every single person who is starting their own enterprise in Tobago, there are certain governing elements, infrastructural elements that need to be addressed, such as the parrots, such as the pricing, such as the availability such as the fermentary, which would be for the benefit of all farmers. There are certain things that need to be put in place nationally in Tobago, is what I'm hearing you say. Yeah. This has to be a Tobago. This has to be our thing. So I'm happy to hear someone. Yes, Kristen, right? Okay. We have to say goodbye for now to Kristen. He has to go. The security.
Sorry, they're making their rounds in the building. Sorry, you need to leave. But what I'll do is I'll leave it running on my phone. So once data good enough, I'll be able to follow along. So
you jump back in. Yes, please do. Do
all
that. Right. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, especially Mr. Dove, for making the time.
Nice seeing you again, Kristen.
All right. See you.
Yes. So, Mr. Dove, thank you, Kristen. As we round up, I want to stress that this is the reason Export TT is having these webinars, is to motivate everyone to find their own creative niche. Those who have not yet started a product, those who have a product, those who have an idea as to how you want to progress with your product, to be inspired by Mr. Dove's innovation, his creativity, his grit, his audacity, because to come back to Tobago after spending 20-something years abroad, at that point in time when he came back wondering, it might have been, okay, suppose I get a roadblock on every side, right? Suppose the cocoa crop fails, right? And there are a lot of what ifs that you would have done, right? And in the end, you came out, okay, sorry, my screen froze there for a moment.
Right, no problem. I'm hearing you. I can respond by saying that, yes, there have been huge challenges. Besides the parrots, we have had umpteen amount of bushfires, trying to save our water tanks from the bushfires, dry season, could be really brutal up in that area. So there's been huge challenges, you know. I mean, I thought I was a fireman at one point in time, right? You know, so there are huge challenges. One roadblock, if I run into a roadblock, I find a trace, right? You always have to keep moving forward, right? That is probably the biggest gain, all right? But basically, I could have stayed outside, buy cocoa beans and create a brand, all right, and sell it. But I decided to come back to Tobago, all right, my lovely Tobago, and do this, all right, get my own beans, because now we have an estate. On all our products, there's a QR code, right, on the back of the products where you can go in with your cell phone, all right, and you come to Tobago. So that guy in New Zealand who went and buy this chocolate could go onto our QR code and he sees one time, oh, Tobago, I never heard about Tobago, but now I've learned something about Tobago from this sea salt Buku Reef. So, you know, I mean, thank God for technology, you know, thank God for technology that, you know, we could do this, right? So, yeah.
That is really remarkable. And I see here sea lions, okay. My mom too, one of your teachers back in the day, would be so proud of your awesome development and awesome respect shown in paying homage to your ancestors and family elders and ancestors. Wish you an amazing recovery out of the world's greatest disruption of all times. All success to you in the future. God bless. Keep shining. That is sea lions. I'm not sure what the C stands for. I don't know if it's Cheryl, but she said her mom taught
lions. I have had many lions in my life, so
I don't know if it's at Methodist school, but I'm not sure. I think there was a Miss Lyons at Methodist school.
That's right. And I went to Methodist school. I went Miss Virgil Montessori, and then Scarborough Methodist, and then Scarborough Secondary, and then Senior Comprehensive. So I went through the whole from Scarborough up there. Yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing here, and to you, Kathleen, it is truly beautiful and exciting to see you after many years, another amazing daughter of Scarborough. Thank you for your excellent presentation. Is this Wendy's sister? I'm wondering if it's Cheryl. Okay, because obviously the person who knows me. Coralie. Oh, I heard of Coralie. Okay, you are here now. The presentation is turning into a reunion kind of a thing. Coralie, yes. Okay, Coralie and my elder sisters went to school. Okay. To the rest of the audience, I do apologize. This is a Tobago reunion. So, Coralie, I'm very glad to hear you on. Mr. Dove, Dwayne, this is really a lovely evening talking to you and finding out so much about what you've done with our nation, our island nation. Tobago has so many talents, so in terms of human resource, human capital, and the land itself, everything. We've been truly blessed, and that's why Export TT is looking to unearth all these treasures, place Tobago even higher up on the map in terms of getting our products out there. And you have done, I really am fully enthralled this evening by the achievements you've done over this past few years. Let me see, 2005 to now.
Yeah.
17 years.
It's been a long journey, and I can tell you up to today, I want more land to plant more cocoa.
Good.
That's my approach. We just need to kind of get the tourists coming back, you know, so we could get some revenue coming in to oil the coil, you know, because our tourism revenue is what pays our recurrent staff. We have salaries to pay. We have, you know, we out in the bush. We have to paint. We have to maintain things, you know, in this humidity in the tropics, you know. But we cannot expand. We cannot develop without having a constant flow, you know, of revenue. You know, that's how it is. So we have 2 years where we haven't been able to, which is why the cocoa estate right now is closed for the season, because we can't, you know, we need to do work. We have a decking to build over, because we can't bring people on the estate and send them out on the decking, and then somebody fall down, break the foot,
Yes.
you understand?
Yes.
Then call fire, have to pay out all this kind of money for insurance, etc. You know, you can't handle that. So there's a lot, 2 years, you know, of no activity, you know, it carries a high cost, you know. So we have to sort of, that's why the cocoa estate is closed, and we're not doing any tours at the moment. We are really hoping to open for Christmas. All right, but things have to be done, you know, to get things back up and running, you know, because we think that the cocoa estate is an important attraction for the island. You know, not just for tourists, but for school children and other, even people people living on the island who don't have any connection with cocoa, you know, and want to come and see, well, oh, so this is a cocoa tree, this is what it looks like, oh, you all do this, and this is what it tastes like, you know. So,
and the rest of the world, everyone eats chocolate, so now there's an interest in where did this chocolate come from. That's right. And so the labor, but just one more thing, the labor element, I know that there's the farm school had closed down for many years, and there's there's now coming back up. TJ has reawakened that avenue. Would that help you in terms of creating the labor force that you need to run an estate like this?
Well, I mean, you know, any labor I could get from Tobago that is committed and willing will help us, because, you know, as it is right now, when we have certain tasks to perform, I have to bring people from Trinidad. Now, luckily, I have a venture in Trinidad also, so I can source labor through that venture, but it is hugely expensive, of course. All right, to bring somebody from Trinidad over to Tobago, I mean, you know, it's huge, you know, it's cost. They do their work and they deliver, right? And at the end of the day, this is what we all. So if we can source that sort of a, you know, commitment from Tobago, then all well and fine. But Tobago, we have been so disconnected in Tobago from the cocoa industry and from agriculture. I mean, we do kitchen gardening, you know. I mean, that's what we do. Little tomato, little cucumber.
Subsistence. Yes.
Yeah, just enough to take your carrier by, you know. I mean, until next market day kind of thing, you know. So there has to be such a huge, you know, we need to get proper people to motivate people, you know. It probably has to start from the school, kitchen gardening, you know. You need to work these things into the backbone of the kids and work it upwards, you know. And you need to pay. It has to be financially rewarding. Very important.
Yes, it's been there in spurts. I'm closely acquainted with quite a few subsistence farmers, teachers, and where my daughter was going to school at Blackrock Government. They, you know, cultivated a garden there, and there are other. I know a lot of schools. Almost every school has their little gardens, but it's not being done to the what Export TT is trying to awaken is mass production, mass farming, sustainable export, sustainable ventures, right? Like what you're doing. So we are starting the ball rolling in terms of motivation to go further, to reach higher, to find a way to get around obstacles. The Tobago manufacturer has more loops to jump through than Trinidad. And Export TT has identified the fact that there's a unique need for Tobago, and we would like to help in that area. And Mr. Dove, this evening, you have certainly sent this ball a little further along. You've snowballed it even more. And I do appreciate, on behalf of Export TT, we do appreciate what you were able to share with us this evening. And is there anyone who would like to ask Trisha B? And I have a feeling it's Trisha Beckles. She's saying she has to leave and she's looking forward to the recording. Certainly, Trisha, it was nice having you on. And anyone else would like to ask a question at this point to Mr. Dove? I'll give you, can start in about 30 seconds. If I don't hear anyone in 30 seconds, I'll start to close up. Anyone? Let me see if I missed out anybody's question.
Good afternoon. Hi, Kathleen. How are you doing? This is Danielle Pontifet here.
Hi, Danielle. Hi, Danielle.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dove, for your presentation and for your hard work. I wanted to ask you if you thought about the cocoa drink, tea. for because I mean, just a couple of days ago in the grocery, I was looking at the prices of the tea, cocoa tea, going up, and we have a lot of foreign cocoa on the shelves, but where is our local cocoa? So I was just wondering if you considered as well expanding or going that direction if you're not there already.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that question. Actually, it's on my bucket list to make a cocoa powder for baking and a cocoa powder to be used as a beverage. I really want to do that. And that was on one of the things I wanted to do back in 2019, and then Corona came 2020, and then that just put a stop to everything. But I'm hoping to definitely develop that a cocoa powder for baking, all right, baking cakes, etc., and also a cocoa powder in a beverage form. Right now, we make. I'm just going to show you this. This is what we call a Couverture chocolate, which is 3 kgs, heavy chocolate that you would melt and use for baking. But this can also be done in a powder form, all right? And I haven't been able to do that as yet, so I'm hoping to do that in the future. There's so many things we can make and we can do, but we really came to a full stop here now with this Corona thing, so I'm hoping in the future, soon come.
Thank you for that question, Danielle. Anyone else who has a question? You can just click the raise hand button. And Mr. Dove, I'd also like to find out from you, how do you feel about supplying raw material to other entrepreneurs in Tobago who would like to create a chocolate product out of it? Is there some way, without bringing it back from the factory in France, is there some way that you see yourself doing a factory here in Tobago for the powdered form at least, even if it's not for the block form?
Yeah, the only thing that we could really make, that we would really do in Tobago is the cocoa balls, as your previous guest was asking, the cocoa balls, because we make those cocoa balls with the grade 3 cocoa beans. We grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. So grade 1 and 2 we would use for making our chocolate products. Grade 3 is like the shake off, and we would make, that is what we would use to make our cocoa balls with bay leaf and spices, etc. And we could make that locally, dry them on banana leaves and show tourists when they come, etc. So that's a really true artisan product, right? So that we would do locally. As far as going into a factory in Tobago, that is a huge undertaking, and I can't see the economic benefits for supporting that. And you can't go and do something without it being able to perform and to support itself, right? Because this is, we having this wonderful discussion, but this is not a hobby. It has to make sense, all right? If it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. So you have, if it doesn't make dollars, you have bills to pay, you have staff to pay, you have insurance to pay, you have maintenance of your buildings to pay, the grounds to keep. I mean, where is all of that going to come from? We're not government funded. This is all private. So whatever we do, we have to sell to generate income, revenue to support the whole business.
So outsourcing production at this point in time makes the most sense. And if a local entrepreneur wants to do the cocoa balls or the cocoa blocks, they can get the grade 3 cocoa from your farm.
Well, at the end of the day, we strive to not get grade 3 because we want grade 1 and grade 2 to make chocolate. So the little grade 3 that we get, yes, we would make some, we would use it. We don't throw it away. There's too much sweat and toil that goes into this, to throw things away. So we would still do something with it, but I mean, we want to get grade 1 and grade 2. Basically. Right.
Okay.
But,
my question
but at the same time, I've always supported local farmers by saying, bring your cocoa, you could bring the pods to the estate, we would wait and we will pay you twice the amount of what the standard wet weight. So if you're getting $3 TT for wet weight, we'll give you $6. All right, right? Because I don't want people bringing beans to me dried. I want to be able to ferment and dry my beans according to my recipe to give my, but I would be happy to receive cocoa from farmers who want to get it off their hands, who don't know what to do with it,
Right.
We would pay them an attractive price per kilo.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dove. Where do we get your cocoa? Your chocolate.
Chocolate, yeah.
Yes. Those of us who are on here this evening, our curiosity is piqued, our interest is all out there, and your chocolate is far away in France. How do we don't want to go to France to get it.
No. I bring France to Tobago. I usually bring France to Tobago. Usually we would bring in chocolates to Tobago. It goes through customs in Trinidad and it gets cleared. We pay our duties, etc. We have all our duty receipts from customs and excise to show. So basically we would bring it in and they would be sold at the airports would carry out. So Caribbean Airlines duty free, Piarco, Langiap at A&R Robinson also sells our chocolates. RT Morsed would have our chocolates. In Trinidad, you would find our chocolates at Malabar Farms, at Fernandez Fine Wines. But we don't, and of course, during the tour season, when the cocoa estate is open, when we have tourists, you could purchase on the days that the estate is open at the estate. And you can also email us and we could probably arrange deliveries to you. But you won't find us at regular everyday supermarket outlets. We are not at those locations at this time, basically. And to be honest with you, we haven't really seek to expand into other, local markets because we just don't have enough to really support that, all right? Because remember, our major market is actually out for the foreign market, and what we have allocated for Trinidad and Tobago is we can only sell at these named outlets at the moment.
Okay, so you've created a business model whereby you are exporting, so we're gaining foreign exchange from the cocoa, the raw material that is going out.
Yeah.
But we're also importing because you have to pay duties to bring it back in.
Oh yeah.
And so it's an unusual sort of scenario that would you say that we need to have some special type of legislation or something to do with how do you, if another entrepreneur wants to do this, I
don't know. I mean, if I have to pay the customs fees and I pay the, when we bring in, if I bring in 500 kgs of chocolates, finished chocolate bars, whatever, and the customs tell me, well, listen, this, okay, you have to pay $10,000, $15,000, then I pay it. All right. And then, but what I would have to do is that the resale price, I have to compensate for that, those customers in the end product. So I have no problem in paying my what I'm supposed to pay. I don't have an issue with that. It's just that I would have to put that on to the price of the finished product to the retailers, the consumer.
But that's the thing. That's the whole point I'm making. What is marked on your chocolates? Made in France or made in Tobago? What do you write on your chocolates?
Well, it's made in the EU. All right. I mean, we have to have that on the product. By all the regulations. Otherwise, we can't sell it. But the raw material on each product on the back of the wrapper. All right, we have information on this where the product is sourced. There's a whole story here about Roxborough on the back of this product in 3 different languages, in French, German, and English. All right, and the QR code here, all right, takes you go with your smartphone, that takes you right to the estate. All right, so we do everything to identify the place of birth of the product on the wrapper and digitally, basically.
Okay.
That's what we do. But we have the product is made within the EU, so we can't write that it's made in Tobago. All right. I mean, the beans are from Tobago, right? But we can't, it's made within the EU. We can't change that.
Right. So for all intents and purposes, the certificate of origin that you would use, do you have to use a certificate of origin to get your cocoa beans out?
Yes,
since it's
of
not
course.
a finished
Well,
product?
there is a whole process to get the beans out there, and that has to be that you have to follow the rules and regulations of customs excise. We have a broker that does that first. Our organic certification means that we have 2 places in Trinidad and Tobago that is also approved for handling of our beans. Otherwise, we can't do it. And the organic inspectors have to go physically to these sites to see that they exist.
Yeah.
That is not a shack. You know, it is something, hygienic rules are followed, etc. So this is serious stuff, you know. And organic certification, we have to pay for. It is not something that's free. You know, it's hugely expensive. TNT Export assisted us when we received our first certification, 2018. But every year since then, we have to pay to retain our organic certification. And on the international market, if you don't have organic, then you might as well forget it.
Yes. And no, it wasn't just in addition to the organic certification, I was referring to the certificate of origin that is needed when Export TT is sending out, for the sake of the audience. For every product that is shipped out of Trinidad and Tobago, there must be a certificate of origin to prove that the majority percentage of that, if it's a finished product, if it's a production, a manufactured good, there must be proof. And Export TT has officers who come to certify that this is, you got most of your raw materials from Tobago or within the CARICOM region.
That's correct.
Right. And so in doing so, Mr. Dove, what would you say for persons who would like to do the same outsourcing? For instance, Nike is outsourced. A whole lot of different things are outsourced from the United States, made in China over the years. I have done outsourcing myself in time past. In terms of people, is there anything that you would say you have opened the door for other Tobagonian entrepreneurs to outsource? Are there ways that you can how should I say it, mentor other Tobagonian entrepreneurs? Because there are many on here this evening, and many will be listening as this recording is circulated in the weeks to come. But would you say that you are in a position to mentor anyone who would like to go the avenue of having an agricultural product and having agricultural produce that could be shipped and outsourced to another factory somewhere else? What can you do for Tobagonian entrepreneurs in terms of your expertise, whether it's to run seminars, whether it's to whatever it is you can do to assist? Are you open to doing that?
Well, all right. So I'm here today, all right, and I'm sharing my knowledge and my experience with you, all right. As to how further I would go, that is, I mean, that's something I can answer right now. I have my business, all right, and I have my business to protect. I want to see my business grow. Competition is healthy, and I encourage everyone to try their hand and do their thing, all right. Competition keeps you alert and it keeps you on the edge, right? So it's good. Especially for my brand, in the middle, right in the pot. You know, we're not in the, we right in the pot in Europe, where we have all the top artisan producers. So it's a learning experience, but we have a wonderful raw material, right? This is our edge. Now, I would certainly encourage other people to definitely, if you're passionate about something, if you have something that you believe in, that you see you can make a finished product of, do it properly, get the accountability, do it organic, all right? But you also need to be able to reach your markets. You need to go to trade fairs, you need to travel, you need to get out and make those crucial contacts, all right? You can't, it's not going to happen, you know, Export TNT can help you to a certain extent, but you know, if you really want to go all the way, you need to do it on your own. You need to be committed, you know, hugely committed. Right? You know, it's not, somebody's not going to feed you, you know, you need to do it, right? We are so accustomed to being spoon-fed, you know, in our culture. So it's important that you make the effort. So yes, I encourage people to, and people can reach out to me, you know, I mean, for a certain amount of guidance. I can't really say how much I can assist. All right, but you mean what I'm saying here now and what I've shared with your audience, I mean, is quite a lot. you know, basically. So
Yes, it is.
yeah.
And we do appreciate it. And what this evening would, I would like to see it, what Export TT would like to see this result in is you being able to sell what it is you have. You're not just selling your tourism product and your chocolate product at this point in time. We see you selling your knowledge as well, because that is a very viable commodity at this point in time, where the internet has brought everything within the reach of those who would like to know. It's the, you know, and is the go-to place now for knowledge. And the persons who would like to, they might not know what kind of product they want to do as yet. Is they don't have a cocoa estate. They are fishing around to find out what role they know. There is something they're called to do. And if probably you can have, I'm not going to charge you for this, probably a mentorship weekend.
Just to let you know something, one industry that I always thought that we could really, you know, try to focus on in Tobago is really a lot of canned fruits. You know, when it's mango season, you see mangoes falling all over the place. You know, the canned fruit industry, I think there's a lot of stuff that we could do there. Basically, I mean, that's something that I would love to venture into, you know, I mean, you know, but I mean, you know, it's all about volume and startups and et cetera, but the canned food industry, you know, is something would probably exploring, you know, for local entrepreneurs, you know, for example.
Yes, we do. Correct. We do have someone who has shown interest in doing canning here in Tobago. And so we're trying to encourage her to go along those lines. So Mr. Dove, I thank you. I thank you so very much. There's some, Coralie is saying again, thank you, Coralie. Coralie said, thanks so much for sharing such invaluable information, Dwayne. Appreciate the powerful business messages. Good night, everyone. Apologies, it's so interesting, but got to leave. Coralie, it was nice having you on. I hope we get to meet again soon. So, Mr. Dove, thank you, Mr. Dove, for that awe-inspiring presentation. I'm certain that our audience has been highly motivated by your wealth of knowledge and experience. You've certainly demonstrated your ability to expand horizons and overcome obstacles to achieve audacious goals. What we'd like to do this evening is thank our audience for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this evening session. It is our desire and intention to take you to the next level of your own exporting journey. We do hope that in many ways, the exporting story of Dwayne Dove will prepare you to confront this journey with the right mental posture for success. Export TT would like to especially thank this evening's feature speaker, Mr. Dwayne Dove, for accepting our invitation to share his exporting story with us and help so many others who can now benefit from his experience, his wealth of knowledge, and the insight he has gained along the way. Mr. Dove, we wish you continued success in your entrepreneurial and corporate endeavors here in Tobago and abroad.